This is Wisconsin Sports on the Go with Trage, your place for all things Wisconsin sports. Now, your host, Trage.
How we doing, everybody, and welcome into Wisconsin Sports on the Go with Trage. I'm your host, Trage, as we're coming in here on this Saturday. I hope you guys are enjoying your Saturday so far here. I hope you guys have enjoyed your weekend so far since we talked this last Wednesday here on the show. It's always a better weekend, right, going into it when the Brewers are winning baseball games, and that's what's going on right now. They're on a 3-game win streak, and still, for some reason, across social media, I'm seeing people complaining, and it absolutely, this drives me bonkers. This drives me absolutely bonkers. I'm going to start the show on a rant here today, but this absolutely drives me nuts. So the Brewers have won 3 in a row. 2 of those games, 2-1 games. Both those games, not really anything to write home about in the, how would you call it there? A lot of small ball. Let's go with that. A lot of small ball as of late, right? Finding ways to score runs. The Brewer mentality, finding ways to score runs, finding ways to win. And they've been leaving guys on base. I get that. I do. I get they've been leaving guys on base. I get that they've struggled with runners in scoring position. I understand all of those things. I look at those things too. But those people out there who are complaining about the Brewers as of late don't even mention that they won the game. They will give you the stat of how many guys they left on base. They'll give you the stat of their what they're doing with runners in scoring position. But they will not say, "Oh, but they won the game." No, they don't care. They don't care. They're just there to complain. That's what's going on right now. It's just a lot of complaining going on. It drives me nuts. It does. Do I have complaints about this Brewers team? Yes, I do. I have a boatload of complaints about this Brewers team that I'm going to talk about here in a minute. I have a boatload of them. But what I want is for the Brewers to win baseball games. Find ways to. I don't care. And this is the best part. The Brewers could play in Game 7 of the NLCS. They could win it 2-1. And these people out there, these analysts, these reporters, these talk show people, whatever, would still find a reason to complain because they left this many guys on base. They did this. They did that. They're going to the World Series. Who cares, right? Who cares? These games right now, they're winning them. That's what matters. When you're missing Christian Yelich and you're missing Andrew Vaughn and you're missing Jackson Chourio and half the team can't even hit right now and you're winning games, whatever, right? Whatever. But man, oh man, if you're going to complain, at least accept that they're winning games and then complain. Like, I'm going to complain today. I have complaints, right? I have complaints. Why is David Hamilton bunting with 2 outs and a runner on third base? Why? Because he can't hit right now. We have nobody else. That's the thing. There's nobody else. What is you supposed to put Joey Ortiz back in? Joey Ortiz can't hit. You want to put Rengifo? Rengifo actually hit last night, so I can't complain about Rengifo. He got hits last night. He was actually pretty good last night there for the Brewers. So you can't really complain about Rengifo last night, but in total, you can. There's just inconsistency across the board for this team. Everybody's inconsistent on this baseball team right now, on this Brewers team. Really, I mean, think about it. Trevor McGill, Abner Uribe, Angel Zerpa. D.L. Hall's been fine. He gave up the home run last night, but other than that, D.L. Hall's been really good for him. Hitting-wise, Ortiz, Hamilton, I wouldn't even say some of those guys are even inconsistent. They haven't been consistent to actually be inconsistent. Like, they haven't done anything to be inconsistent at this point here. But you get what I mean. There's been a lot of inconsistency across the board on this team. That is one of my complaints, I guess, right now, is especially in the bullpen, especially in that bullpen. Because last night, you look at it, I've loved the last 3 outings that the Brewers have had starters, right? Chad Patrick was fantastic for him there against the Blue Jays. And then you saw Brandon Sprout. Love to see that. Love to see Sprout bounce back and have a great outing for the Brewers there in that final game of the series against the Blue Jays. And then you had Coleman Crowe go last night. That curveball, that cutter, his breaking stuff, that stuff is nasty. That is nasty. Coleman Crowe is going to be fantastic. I was looking back because I saw somebody on Twitter and they showed like, welcome to the crew, Coleman Crowe. And, you look at the comments then on the post and everybody was complaining, who's this guy? He's never going to see the big leagues, blah, blah, blah. He's fantastic. I get he doesn't have the electric fastball that everybody wants, right? He doesn't have that electric fastball. He makes up for it with that curveball. That curveball drops. That thing is wow. I mean, watching that, I swung out of my shoes and I'm sitting on my couch right now. That's what's going on. He was fantastic, and you love this. That was a great debut, great outing. You love to see. I love when they on the TV they'll pan up to the family and you can see their reactions like along with what's going on in the game. I absolutely enjoy that. I know I think the Brewers aren't making as much off of this Brewers TV and everything like that. Like they're going to lose money off of this because they don't have a TV deal technically. But like I've loved what Brewers TV has brought. All the stats that they show on the screen, they'll give you random stats. They'll like Bryce Terang's like on base streak, and like they'll bring up those random stats. I think there was one about Coleman Crow's curveball that was along the way. Like it's very well put together. The broadcasts are. So I loved what that's been so far. But sidetrack off what's going on. But a fantastic debut for Coleman Crow. And then the bullpen comes in and you have an inconsistent day again. Because you look at a couple days ago, after Brandon Sprout was lifted, Trevor McGill was fantastic. It was fantastic across the board for the Brewers. But they just can't find consistency in that back end of the bullpen. And it's causing trouble. It is. You can't honestly, if you were a starter, if you had a starter go 6 right now for the Brewers, who do you trust to go to? Like, honestly, who do you trust to go to that is going to slam the door? Uribe's been shaky. He didn't blow anything last night, right? He pitched an inning. He had 2 walks, 1 strikeout. He got him out of there. But he's been shaky. McGill's been shaky. Zerpa's been shaky. Grant Anderson's been, solid. Nothing great, but solid. Honestly, I know a lot of people don't like D.L. Hall, but D.L. Hall's been one of your best relievers if you really think about it for this Brewers team. I mean, that's crazy to think. I know a lot of people out there are like, D.L. Hall, he stinks. D.L. Hall's been one of their better relievers on the season. He's posted a .96 ERA in 9 1/3 innings worked. He's been solid for this team. So, right now, looking at this bullpen, that's about it for, trust at this point. Outside of that, there's guys in there that can get outs, like Ashby. I think he can get outs, but Ashby's been bumped around. Right now, if you said, who would you trust in that bullpen? I'd say probably D.L. Hall first. Right now, D.L. Hall first. Then probably Abner. Abner would be in that mix. After that, here's a hat. Pick a name out, throw them out there, see what happens. That's where they're kind of at right now. Is Trevor McGill on tonight? Is Abner on tonight? There is just so much inconsistency right now in this bullpen that is a big issue right now. You have issues with the offense, leaving guys on base. All the people complaining are correct. They are leaving a lot of guys on base. They are struggling with runners in scoring position. They have opportunities. They've given themselves opportunities to push across more runs in these games. Last night, even in some of the games against the Blue Jays and some of the losses, they've had opportunities to push more runs across. I will not at all say that anything against that because those complaints are right, but they're finding ways to win. And that's the Pat Murphy way. That's the way this Brewers team has operated now underneath the Pat Murphy is they find ways to win games. Getting better along the way is only a bonus. When you can find ways to win games when you're stinking, that's what matters. Because then when you can reload with all your guys, right? Churrio's now swinging. They said that he's swinging now. Andrew Vaughn's supposed to be back here pretty soon too. Churrio's supposed to be back pretty soon. Yelich is going to be a little bit longer. But until you get those guys back, your offensive guys, when you can get those guys back in the lineup, you feel a lot better. Because then, honestly, you get Andrew Vaughn back, you could have a lineup that includes Gary Sanchez, Jake Bauers, and Andrew Vaughn. Gary playing as a DH, Vaughn playing first base, and Jake Bauers out in the outfield. And then mix and match. Right now, Mitchell's your center fielder, no doubt. Mitchell's been one of the better hitters on this team so far this year. And he's been taking it to all fields. So right now, you are winning games, and that's what matters, right? You're winning games, and that's what matters. Now it's about finding ways to improve what from within, basically, at this point, unless they're going to go out there. I've looked at the third base market. I was intrigued because I was, yelling about David Hamilton bunting with a runner on 3rd and 2 outs. And I was like, is there anybody out there who can play the left side of the infield better than these guys are? Not really. Not in the free agent market, unless you want to get a 41-year-old Justin Turner. That one doesn't jump at me. It did a couple years ago, but not really anymore. I don't need another you don't need another DH on this roster. And I don't know if Jose Iglesias is still suspended or what's going on with that. I believe he had some kind of matter with umpiring or something like that. I don't know. Some with Jose Iglesias there, but he hasn't been signed by anybody. There's a lot of pitchers left in the free. Lucas Giolito is still out there. He had a pretty good year last year. So I don't know what's going on with the whole Lucas Giolito thing. But anyways, the Brewers, they're winning games. That's what matters. Today, this afternoon, they have the Marlins once again, 3:10 start for that one. They're a weird Saturday start time. I was thinking it was going to be after like a late night, whatever you want to call it, like a 6 o'clock, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock kind of start. It kind of drives me nuts because my Saturday is kind of like, built around watching that later in the day. What am I supposed to do my Saturday night now? I mean, just sit on the couch. Like, what am I supposed to do? So anyways, Woodruff taking on Sandy Alcantara tonight. If the Brewers win again, if it's 2-1, whatever, they're winning games right now. And then we accept that they win games, and then we complain about the way that they're winning games. That's the way that it works. We accept that they win it, and then we complain about what's happening inside of the win that needs to be better. That's the way you got to approach it, because if you don't, that's what drives me nuts right now. That's what's absolutely driving me nuts, is people just complaining to complain. So that's where I'm at today. That's where I'm at today with these Brewers. Brewers on a 3-game win streak. That's what matters. After that 6-game losing streak, I don't care how you got to win games. Just win games. That's all that matters. Win games right now, get your stars back, and then take off from there. There you go. That's all I need to know. So we have a lot to get into. Badger talk coming up next there. After that, we're going to have some Packers. And then, of course, wrap it up for the day. We'll be right back here on Wisconsin Sports. Interesting stuff happening out of the blue. Nobody, I don't know, Christian, you're in the Badger reporting, but I don't know if you saw this one coming. McIntosh stepping down as the AD for the Wisconsin Badgers. He's going to take on a new role with the Big Ten, effective immediately. So he resigned already. He's out. Like, there was a lot of people speculating when the news first got announced. They're like, okay, like, what's going to happen? Is he going to help lead the next charge for the new AD before he leaves? What's going to happen there? No. He signed the papers. He's out. So Chris McIntosh out at Wisconsin. We're going to have a new AD coming in. We're going to have a new chancellor. There's a lot of turnover right now with Wisconsin. University of Wisconsin at this point. But now you have an interim chancellor in there. You have an interim AD in there at this very moment. Both of them trying to figure out who's going to hire who at this very moment. So, Christian, I mean, was there much like leeway to this? Like, was there rumblings about this kind of happening, or was it really out of the blue? I mean, from what you were hearing around from other guys out there.
I think it was really out of the blue. I don't think that's anything anyone expected, but then when you kind of take a step back and look at it, like you were talking about, with the president the president of the whatever was fired just recently, right? And the chancellor's taking a new job, and everyone's kind of like, well, it kind of makes sense for him to like try to dip out right now, just because new people come in, and if he's not, if they're not thrilled with how he's been doing, I mean, so you might have a quick hook, So
right.
I think he probably saw an escape out of there quick, and before before he was let go, and he just took it. So we'll see. I don't think anyone's like amazingly shocked that he quit or he left, especially with how things have been going. But I think it kind of just felt like it came out of nowhere.
It was you've heard a lot of stories coming out now, right? Everybody waits until a guy leaves, and you hear the stories come out, and you hear Barstool Big Cat say that he tried to talk to him about putting money in, and nobody would get back to him. And then you hear like guys like Frank Kaminsky who talk about it, and they say, well, I've said many times that I'll be a part of fundraising events and stuff like that, but nobody ever reaches out or asks. And you hear all those stories, and you're like, okay, if these are true, McIntosh really wasn't doing a great job. And that's just plain and simple. He wasn't doing a great job in there. So now you are on the search for this new AD. And I've seen a lot of people, they're like, oh, bring in Jim Leonard. They're like, oh, bring in Mark Tauscher. Bring in this guy. I don't need any of that. I need a guy who's going to understand the current landscape, but is also going to reach out to Mark Tauscher, is also going to reach out to Frank Kaminsky and do this fundraising and try to put money together and talk to Barstool Big Cat and talk to a lot of these people and say, hey, okay, this is where you test them now, right? Barstool Big Cat said, hey, I wanted to put money in. Okay, reach out to him. The new AD, reach out to him. Say, hey, what do you want to invest? What do you want to put money into? Where do you want to put money? Okay, you want X amount of dollars? There you go. Like, that's the AD that you need. And if McIntosh wasn't doing that, well, it's maybe the best thing that he was, walked away, that he resigned, that he left, that it was so easy. And now you're on this hunt. Now you need to find a guy who's going to be able to adapt to the new world of college sports, because it is a mess. It is crazy. It is crazy having to fundraise. And you need a guy in there who's going to do all those things, work hard and do all those things to get the NIL money basically into these programs. Because right now, Wisconsin isn't like they're at the top. They're definitely sitting probably middle of the pack in the Big Ten, if they are in middle of the pack in the Big Ten. So McIntosh leaves. What does that do, Christian? So we've been kind of flying by it that Fickell is tied to McIntosh and McIntosh is tied to Fickell. Well, now McIntosh is gone. So Fickell's kind of missing that guy, like he mentioned when he was talking about it, a guy in his corner. So now that guy in his corner is gone. Does this next season for Fickell, does it have to be perfect now? I mean, if there is say they only win 6-7 games, right? It's an improvement. It definitely is an improvement off what we've seen. But you could have a new AD who comes in who says, it's not good enough yet, right? You're improving, but we want faster. We want to get this done with. Does it have to almost be I don't know if you could say 10-win, but a 9-win, 10-win season for a new AD to say, well, Fickell's doing a good job? Is Fickell's job, is his seat even hotter now?
I'd like to say no, but I mean, honestly, thinking about it, probably is, right? Like, I think looking at it, I think he was already looking at 1 year left this year. Like, he had to have a good season. But yeah, I think you're kind of right. He probably had even a little bit of a more, of a longer leash with McIntosh, because that was his guy. That was his big hire. They were tied together. So now that McIntosh is gone, I mean, you might want an AD who gets his own guy, especially depending on who they hire, where they're from, right? Like if they bring in someone else from, I don't know, I haven't heard any names specifically, but I just know some names have been thrown around. Is like the AD at Iowa State. He's a Wisconsin alum, I think, or at least he's from Wisconsin. Just things like that. They might have a pretty short leash for Fickell, knowing like how things haven't gone well for the Badgers like football program, and I don't know, just if they don't do a really, really good job, maybe he's like, you know what, this is not cutting it. I'm going to get my own guy in here who I think will do a better job. So I think you're kind of onto something. So I'm thinking, what do we say? Like last year, or going into this year earlier, did he have to just get to a bowl game and he was probably safe with under McIntosh or like an 8-win season? Yeah, 9-10 is not, maybe 9-10 isn't such a crazy thought that you have to hit that. Otherwise, you're out. So, because you could even argue that, well, maybe it's because you got a lot easier schedule. That's why you did a little better. That doesn't necessarily mean the team's better, So I don't know. We'll see. I think you're onto something. I think like that just makes things a little harder on Fickell and makes his seat a little hotter.
Yeah, intensifies everything inside those practices, inside the locker room right now for Badger football. Because I think that job is definitely. It's up for grabs at this point. It's up for grabs.
Mm-hmm.
It's a tough spot, right? I shouldn't say a tough spot for Fickell because you want him to be able to figure it out. That's his job. But in the current landscape of college sports, with the transfer portal, you can turn a program over pretty fast. I mean, look at Cignetti out there with Indiana. I know it could be a diamond in the dozen kind of effort that you put in out there, and it might not happen ever again. But
that's also a unique situation. Every situation is unique. But
right,
I think
exactly.
a big part of it is how much money do you have going into your program? And I think you can give Fickell, you can be critical of Fickell. Like I'm critical of Fickell. Everyone, he came in with this, this huge like idea of like what it was going to look like. And there was a lot of, he was very ambitious, very like, they even made like their spring game. They called it the launch, and like they had it open to the public, and it was a huge thing. Everything was a big social media blitz. But the problem was, I don't think it was necessarily him. Outside of him hiring Longo, and I will go to my grave thinking that was like his single biggest mistake, because I think that set back the offense 3 years. So like, I think they're still going to be kind of reeling this year. They're still kind of like trying to figure it out. But I mean, I think Grimes is a lot better offensive coordinator than Fickle or than Longo was, at least fitting in Wisconsin.
Right.
But I think year two, it'll be better than it was last year, especially, again, there's so much that goes into this. Like, Fickle hasn't had his top quarterback any of his seasons he's been here. And like, it's like that has to come for something, right?
Right.
But I'd say the biggest thing, though, is like the program's just been extremely underfunded. And that's not on Fickle. So you can only do with as much, you can do with, trying to find my words. You can only do like the best you can with what you have. And that was the big thing over this offseason was, now we're going to go from the bottom third of funded teams into the Big Ten into the top third. Right. So, I mean, and we saw like they did some damage in the portal. I mean, I don't think they did anything like insane, but they basically revamped their secondary. They added some new wide receivers, a whole new quarterback room and if Colton Joseph can stay healthy, he's going to be the best quarterback they've had since Fickle's been there. Like, I like Tanner Mordecai, but Colton Joseph, man, he's a weapon. I mean, we're going to see how he does going from Old Dominion up to, Big Ten play, but I think he's got another year of development under him. He's, and part of it though is just instinct. You can't necessarily coach. Like, he's athletic, he's mobile, and I've seen him make some pretty nice like throws on the run or just, off script. And then even if he does, like, God forbid he gets hurt, Deuce Adams behind him. I mean, I've seen 2 practices with him, and I'm already more impressed with him than I ever was with Braden Locke. So take that for what it's worth. But I think so. Everything, like I said, everything's a unique situation. I think it's hard to you can't just keep giving him a bunch of chances. You could make excuses all day long for Fickle, like I just am right now. But
right.
At some point, you got to take your medicine. It is what it is. You got to cut your losses. But we haven't really seen Fickle's program at its full potential yet. And I think, part of that too comes with funding. If he can't pay to keep up with these teams like Indiana, that's just kind of what happens. We don't have a Mark Cuban funding the program. But again, maybe that's on McIntosh because you got guys like Big Cat and Frank Kaminsky and all these other people that potentially want to give money, but maybe they were really selective with what money they were taking. Because I know obviously they took money from donors like Kellner but why would you not take money from Big Cat?
Right.
Maybe it's because he's Barstool. Maybe it's because he's Barstool, but he's still a really notable Wisconsin alum. He's a huge presence on Barstool. He was with them from the beginning. He's on the biggest podcast in the country, one of the biggest. Why would you not want to capitalize on that and get
what you can?
But again, maybe that's all the Wisconsin way or the Wisconsin brand. We don't take money from just anybody and blah blah blah. But I don't know. So we'll see what this next AD does. Maybe they'll be a little more. Maybe they'll be better with NIL. I think I'm not crazy about McIntosh either, but I think he did. I'm not going to say he did a good job. I think he gets a lot of crap for firing Chris, but I absolutely think that was 100% the right choice, and I think it was still the right choice to maybe not go with Leonard either. Now I loved I love Jim Leonard absolutely, but I don't think he was really. Could you imagine coach Jim Leonard? He's an X's and O's guy. He's a coach. He loves football. Recruiting was not his thing. I don't think he liked it very much. And that's what the job is right now. So I don't know. I think McIntosh got maybe a worse rap than what he deserved, but here we are. It is what it is.
And I think I don't know if it was Fickle's fault. I don't know if it was McIntosh's fault, but you're seeing a lot more of the alumni being involved within the program now, right? And they're getting into practices and they're meeting with the team and everything. So, Fickle may be adjusting when he first came in saying, okay, I want to do it my way. It's going to be my way. And I want to have my, philosophies and I want to do this. And now he brings in Grimes going back to a little bit more of the power run, that kind of philosophy. And now he's starting to bring back some of those old Badger guys and starting to get the alumni involved. And it makes you think about it. It's like, okay, maybe he's readjusting. And then you listen, McIntosh. Maybe McIntosh wasn't accepting the roots that Wisconsin was with not doing this fundraising, where you have these guys saying, well, we want to be involved. We want to do fundraising for these guys. They just don't reach out. And that's partly on Greg Gard, too. I want Greg Gard has to be better about getting his alumni back there. If they want to do fundraising to help him out in NIL, he can definitely get Frank Kaminsky and Sam Decker and those guys to probably show up and do something. You're Ben Brust and Josh Gosser, all those guys. Get back together. Do some event. Try to raise some money. Like, there's all those things. And if McIntosh wasn't doing those things, that's where if he did step down for reasons of, well, he wasn't doing a good job and he knew like where he was kind of trending towards, okay, you bring in this new guy. You want to see them kind of if you get a Wisconsin guy with Wisconsin roots where he's going to get back to that. But you almost want to go with a guy who understands today's day and age too, right? Mm-hmm. What's going to click? What's going to click with the younger generation, with even 20-year-olds nowadays? Because it's different now. So you want to get one of those guys in there where they understand. Maybe they don't have to be in charge of social media, but you want to have an understanding of social media and ways to fundraise and do all those little things. So definitely a lot on the plate now for the Wisconsin Badgers as a university, because like I said, the chancellor, they got, AD to replace now. I believe there's some other positions inside Wisconsin that need to be replaced. So definitely some big things right there. I mean, I don't think this affects Greg Gard at all, but a new AD, it changes a lot of things, and it changes outlook on seasons and what they see too. So I'm not going to say Greg Gard's going to get fired next year. I'm not going to say any of that kind of stuff. But looking at it, it definitely puts a spotlight on all the coaches to say, okay, your old boss is gone. Somebody else is stepping in. Okay, now what's going to happen? And, we've seen crazy things, and we've seen people come in and blow things up. So hopefully not, but hopefully the right AD coming in next. So Badgers, let's talk about men's basketball for a second. Austin Rapp is back. He signed the deal. He's coming back to the Badgers. I love it. I think that was one of the things. I said it on Saturday's show, Christian. I said there's two things the Badgers have to do. Two things before they attack the transfer portal. Well, three things. Number one was let the big dogs eat first, because they're not going to be able to afford those guys. Let them get all the big stuff, and then they'll get the bacon at the bottom. That was number one. Number two was they had to get Nolan Winter signed up, and number three was they had to get Austin Rapp. After you get Austin Rapp and Nolan Winter, you know how much money you have to spend, because the rest of the guys, they're not going to be making that much. Those are your two big hitters, right? Those are the guys who are going to make your pretty penny out of your pocket. So you got one of those things done. Austin Rapp signs the deal. Hopefully we get Nolan Winters announced here pretty soon, and then we can kind of see what the Badgers do from there. I think, Christian, honestly, those are the two big ones, right? That they had to do is Rapp and Winter, and then they can kind of figure out what they have left in their budget and who they can target out there in the transfer portal.
Yeah, so I think Rapp was a big one. I think he's primed for like a breakout next year. I know he didn't technically start, but he had a hard kind of start of the season. He was a freshman, like he was only a sophomore.
Right.
His freshman season he spent like as a mid-major, right? So now all of a sudden he's in a Big Ten. He's trying to figure it out. And I think he really came on at the last part of the season there. So I think he's only going to build off of that. So I think he's in their plans to be like one of their, primary scorers. He's going to be one of the guys that they're going to depend on to like take up some of that scoring that was left over by Blackwell and Boyd. So then obviously I think Winters, it's pretty much a formality at this point. He's coming back. All he really has to do is put pen to paper. But from what I've heard is like he is coming back. They just have to sign the contract or whatever. So you got those two coming back. You still, I know they've already locked down Garlock and Kinzinger and my God, Hayden Jones, from what I've understood, like those guys. So they're coming back. I haven't heard anything about Janicki. I'm assuming he's coming back. So he probably would hit the portal by now, huh?
If he comes back at a good price, I'd bring him back. But if he's not coming back at a good price, I'm letting him walk out the door.
What's he going to do? He didn't necessarily perform next
what could
last
he even
year,
command?
Anything crazy.
Like, what could he command in the market?
But then I don't know. You could just.
I don't dislike the guy. I don't dislike the guy.
But I'm saying is he didn't put up any like huge like points or like numbers or anything that would like command that would put pressure on the Badgers. But then they got those incoming guys, which I think are going to be really good. We'll see if they can land Xavier Zenz. That's he might have committed by the time this comes out already, but he was supposed to commit. The expectation is he was going to commit some point on Tuesday. He was down to Utah State, Illinois, and Wisconsin. So we'll see how that goes. But we'll talk about that too. And so I'm sure we're going to talk about Donovan Davis and stuff too if we come back. But so So we'll see. I think guards, we'll see what they come up with. I know that they have a few guys coming in and visiting, and one of them, you're going to love this. I can't remember the name. Kids, I think it's like Elmer. I think it's Elmer, and out of Miami of Ohio. He's coming in for a visit. So there you go. So
they can shoot
pretty big score for the Red Hawks last year. So I don't know. They got some guys coming in, but it's not. I don't think it's going to be like the past few years. It's no one that's like, oh man, like let me go look at the transfer portal rankings and he's on the first page in the top 25 players. It's probably not going to be that. But because again, Wisconsin's basketball is hilariously underfunded, and it's an absolute joke. So that's what one point where I'm very critical of Chris McIntosh. Although Wisconsin's one of those schools where it's like you need the football program to be good to bring in a lot of revenue, and then you can share that revenue with the basketball team. So it's
right.
So the football team struggling is like a direct impact on Greg Gard's funding and the players he can bring in anyway. So he's doing, again, Greg Gard's doing what Greg Gard can do. He's doing what he can with what he has. And I think if an AD came in and fired him immediately, that'd be a huge mistake.
Right. No, exactly. I don't think any AD is going to come in and fire him right away. But, when you bring in a new AD, it puts everybody under this microscope to see which parts are working, which parts aren't. Could we improve here? Could we improve there? Maybe some ADs are tied to coaches elsewhere too. So they're like, we want to bring in this guy.
But I think before you can even consider firing Gard, when you look at his body work and what he's done with what he's had, what happens if you give him a big check before you can just fire him, get a new guy in, and then give him a big check? That'd be insane to me.
Maybe we got to test it one year. Maybe they just got to test it one year and just give him a big check and to give a blank slate and just say, here's a blank check. Go get your guys.
An extra $10 million. Go.
Yep. Go get your guys and see what you can do. Maybe they do. Maybe that'd be a shot.
Well, see what maybe they get some of that money they get from the state here. Although technically, I kind of thought that was pretty slick. Those sneaky how they did that. It's like that money specifically goes towards the loans they have for all their projects they have going for the indoor facilities and all that stuff. But that frees up that exact same amount of money that they don't have to pay their loans now. They can go towards NIL. So, I mean, it'll help. But I'm sure the Badgers, they're getting more this year. Maybe this will allow them to have a little more next year too. So we'll see. But
if we see Greg Gard go out and get KJ Lewis, that he got a bigger check. He got a bigger
or
check.
Somehow or somehow brings back John Blackwell.
Nope, I'm done with him. I'm done with Blackwell now. He's gone. I'm done with him. He's talking to Mick Cronin next at UCLA. So if he goes to UCLA, I lose all respect for the man. That's all I know. Because if he wants to compete for championships, he's not going out there.
That's what he says. But dude, it's a money grab. And you know what? I'm not going to sit and criticize him for that either. But if that's what he wants, come out and say, I'm available to the highest bidder. I want to cash out my last year. Say it.
Yeah,
all know.
Don't sugarcoat it for me.
And I have all the respect in the world for you, man. You go make some money. You've earned it, right?
Right.
But don't sit and say, well, I actually want to compete for a championship and Lord, that's the standard. It's dude, what do you think Wisconsin's doing?
Yeah, maybe you should play better against high points, and maybe you could.
Yeah, maybe don't turn it over on the last possession. Huh?
Whatever. What do we know? We just talk about you. So, Christian, I got to run here. Let the people know where to find you out there across social media.
As always, you can find me at Christian Borman on Twitter, and you can find all my work at the Badger Backer and Badgers on SI.
Make sure you guys check him out. He's got fantastic articles. Words are hard. Yeah, words are hard sometimes. He's got fantastic articles out there across all the social medias. Make sure you check him out at the Badger Backer there. He does the What If series. He's got the Badger Roundup every single week there. So make sure you check him out. And I kind of talked about it. I was in that same boat. We had talked about it, I believe, a week before. We had said, would you trade Wicks? Would you trade Reed? And both of us were kind of in that same camp. We're like, why would you trade from depth? Because when you have depth, it's great. And then if you trade depth and a guy gets hurt, then, well, what do you do, right? You have a bunch of random guys in the room. So now, looking at that trade, how much emphasis do the Green Bay Packers have to put on drafting a wide receiver? And when I say that, I think, because I had said I think they're going to draft one. But now the question is,
Absolutely.
when do you draft one? Because you're going to start in the second round, as we know, unless if Goody works some of that crazy magic like he did in the Wicks trade where he got 2 picks. If he works some of that crazy magic and ends up in the first round, which wouldn't put it past Goody to do something crazy like that, but he's terrible in the first round, so maybe he needs to stay back in the later rounds anyway.
Minus a couple picks here and there.
Minus a couple picks, he's pretty bad in the first round.
I 100% agree with this so far, yeah.
So if you're the Packers, if in your mind, how much do you need? Like, how badly do you need? Could you get a guy that you can develop? Because if you think like 4th, 5th, 6th round, it's a develop guy, right? When you're thinking first, second, and third rounds, those are the guys that even third can vary, right? But first and second, maybe into the third, those are the guys that you want to make an impact. Those are the guys you want to see that season. I know we say that, and Matthew Golden was a first round pick, and we thought he could do a lot more last season. But anyways, that's enough said about that. If you're the Packers, where are you looking right now? Are you putting so much of an emphasis on it that if that guy is there in the second round, you're taking him? Or are you waiting till the later rounds and getting one of those guys that you like, but you can develop?
I think the room is set up in a way to where you can do the latter. You don't have to reach, right? You have Watson, you have Reed, you have Golden, you have Savion, you have Sky Moore. You probably have Bo Melton because he's probably going to play receiver. He's probably going to play both ways, hopefully this time around, right? You have a pretty good room as it is. You probably got some couple guys on the practice squad too. So for me, unless there's a guy that they're completely enamored with at 52, I'm hoping that they'll use one of their later draft picks. This is one of the few drafts. Woody had mentioned this, where it was the first draft that Goody's ever had where he's had less than 10 picks to use. He only had 7 draft picks, and now the fact that he's traded, Dontavian, he now has 8 picks, and then his next year's draft he has he's going to have well over 10 picks, right? So I wouldn't be surprised if he definitely moves up and down the draft board to acquire more picks, or possibly move back into the first round and grab somebody if he really likes someone. I'm with you though. I think that with Way Watson has kind of been really shown what he can do on the offense. Jaden Reed had an injured year last year, but when he was out there, he was pretty, he performed pretty well minus the drop in the playoff game. I know it happens, but I'm just saying it was a tough drop. And then, of course, this is a time for Golden to finally shine. And I feel like just with those 3 guys alone, and Sky Moore is a vet. He's going to be our kick return, punt returner, but, you can have him out there on passing downs as well, too. So for me, I grab a guy that they might like to develop in the later rounds. I know they brought that kid Brazel from Tennessee. There's a kid out of Ole Miss. There's a few guys they've been looking at. Some kid out of another kid out of ECU that's supposed to be really good too. That they can get in later rounds, and that could be that kid Sterling or Sturbing. He is disgusting. Him. And there's another guy, Ted Hurst. There's a few guys that have been looking that they've brought in for top 30 visits. Normally, the guys they bring in for top 30 visits are people they can draft in the late rounds or UDFAs. Meaning, a lot of times, the guys they bring in, if they're like a first or second round pick, sometimes they bring him in or sometimes they don't bring him in at all. Like Jair Alexander, they said they spoke to him one time. He said he got spoke for 5 minutes in the draft process. And he had no idea Green Bay was interested. So, with what you're saying, I think that they'll probably get someone that can develop because, this is a young man's game. But this is the first time Goody has actually stirred away from his normal process where he's getting guys that are over the age of 30. He's getting veteran presences that can possibly help from a leadership perspective on the team and provide good talent as well, too. So I'm all for them getting a later guy in the later rounds. Same thing for running back. I want them to try to get a guy later in the rounds. I really want them to emphasize on corner, offensive line, and defensive line when it comes to their first 2 picks.
I wish they would have talked to Jair a little longer so they could have seen that little crazy side that he's got in him. I don't think they figured that one out in 5 minutes.
Hey,
figure him out.
He's crazy, but look, in his defense, he pretty much was fine up until he broke his shoulder and then he tore his ACL. Not ACL, but he messed up his PCL. I mean, before that, he was I still was watching highlights of this Instagram account that may or may not be him, but watching him do the gritty and all that stuff, I'm just thinking man, this guy was something else. When he was on, he was
Oh, very
Absolutely.
good player. Very
Yeah,
good player. He was like
Yeah.
a little goofy, a little on the goofy
He's a
side.
little eccentric, but
I saw like
yeah.
a burner account for Rashawn Gary now too. You know,
Yeah, I
speaking
saw
of
that.
I saw
Yeah.
there's like something where he's like answering
I
back to
retweeted it from
fans and
Dov.
stuff.
Yeah, I hate Dov, but I had to retweet that. So I was like, so I went through every single post. I'm like, oh God, yeah, this dude he's definitely that's his burner because the way he was talking and I've never seen anyone defend Rashawn Gary to that extent.
Maybe it's
Like,
his mom. Maybe it's his mom. I don't know if Rashawn Gary's
it
mother.
could be family too. I agree.
It could be somebody like that.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't
definitely
know.
talking in third person for sure. He was smart enough to talk say me or I. He definitely was saying that he was like a Packers fan kind of, right? But I don't know. Like I said, everyone that got kind of pushed out of the Packers roster, I feel like were the guys that are probably complaining about their roles. And you can see it, Rashawn was complaining about it. Probably he was pissed because they brought in Micah and he thought he was the guy, but he really turned out to not be the guy. They got rid of Wicks, who probably wanted a bigger role. But the thing that killed me about that was, and Wildy said that too, where like, oh yeah, he didn't get a bigger role. And I'm like, well, he was never available.
Right.
Like he would have a big game. Like he had that monster game in Detroit, and then he was in and out of the lineup for all year because of a injury here or injury there. I was like, it's not fair to say that he wasn't given opportunities, but the problem was his best ability being availability wasn't there.
Yep.
So for me, I didn't agree with that. I agree with a lot of what Wildy says, but that one I didn't agree with.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree with you there. And talking about the wide receiver room, do you draft one early? If the guy is there, right? If say there's a first round guy who drops for some reason and you just love him, then 100% you take him, right? But I think you're in a camp right now where you can bring in a guy who can develop. I see Savion Williams is the wild card in the whole thing. If I knew what I could expect out of Savion Williams, then I'd feel better. Like I'd feel a lot better. I think he's my wild card because I don't want Sky Moore out there. Like, to be honest with you, I want a special teams guy, and that's it. I know he's a guy emergency, right? That's my emergency guy. And you have other guys. I think Will Shepard's still in there. So you have other guys who have potential in there at this point. But I want to see him take a guy. I want to see him. They're probably going to take some big physical, 6'3", 6'4" guy like they love to get, and that's kind of what you need at this point. You got to replace Wicks in some way. So you want to get that big physical guy that you can work with. So we'll probably see him go in there. I would say most likely in the later rounds too. I think second round, I'm almost, if the defensive tackle room doesn't clear out by then, because I want to talk about that now. Defensive tackle, you kind of mentioned it before there. The Packers, we watched last season. We watched it. When we all talked about it, that it seemed kind of thin, but we weren't worried, right? Because Devontae Wyatt was there and you still had guys. Well, that kind of cleared out fast when Devontae Wyatt got hurt. And then it was terrible up the middle. And they were bringing in random guys left and right to try to fill the hole. And they did to the best of their abilities, I guess you could say, but they weren't going to be your guys, right?
Right.
So if you're right now looking at the draft, it looks like that defensive tackle room is kind of top heavy. And then it's going to dwindle out fast. And there could be some hidden gems in there, right? As always. But it doesn't look as promising towards the end. So if you're the Packers, if you don't find your guy in that second and third round, I think you need to bring in a Calais Campbell or somebody like that. I think you still need to target another piece for depth in that room because I don't trust Warren Brinson. I don't trust Stackhouse. I know that you drafted Brinson and you brought in Stackhouse. I know that those guys you're trying to develop, but at the same time, you're trying to win football games and your window's open right now. It's not open next year. It's open right now. And I feel like you need to solidify the middle. So I guess, in your opinion, how much of an emphasis, we just talked about wide receiver room, how much an emphasis are you putting on the defensive tackle spot? If you can't get a guy in the early rounds, are you looking in free agency yet, or where are you kind of at with that D tackle room?
I think we're bringing in Calais Campbell regardless. I think you bring him in regardless because you can have another veteran presence on the defensive line who's still playing at a high level and who's going to come for a pretty decent deal. I think the guys they've been bringing in for visits are all late round picks. There's a kid out of Clemson. There's a kid named Orange. There's another kid out of ECU. I forgot the other one. There's another one named out of Washington as well too. All these defensive tackles are big guys who have pretty good athletic scores, but don't have the greatest tape, or they didn't have a lot of. Some of them, like one guy's from Madison, Wisconsin. He didn't start playing football until he was a senior in high school. And again, excuse me, but I feel like what they're going to probably do is if they can't get a guy like Lee Hunter, with the 52 pick or in the first 2 picks, I'm thinking that they're more likely going to try to grab some dudes late or do the UDFA route. Because the guys, like some of the guys they brought in are like they're physical specimens, like 313 pounds running a 4.78. I mean, that's insane. You
just gotta think guy that can step in if you lose a Devontae Wyatt again, or if you lose a Hargrave. You got to have a guy that can step in that you feel like if these guys go down, they can step in and play every snap. They can play not every snap, but at least be every game. They can be forces up front. And I just didn't think last season with Brinson and Stackhouse and any of those guys that you had that Carl Brooks or, Kobe Wooden was in there too, that you had that with those guys. Those guys are fine secondary pieces, right? When Devontae Wyatt needs a breather or whoever else, Kenny Clark, when he was still around, when they needed a breather, those guys were great for those roles. And they're good players, but they're not the guys that you needed. And when you were missing Micah, it got really under the microscope then, as we saw in the cornerback room, we saw in the D-tackle room, where it all became known, well, these are problem spots for depth for this team. So I guess that's where I'm kind of like, I hate not having depth. I hate not having good depth. And that's where the wide receiver room, where we both became indifferent there, was talking about that, was do you want to lose talent in there like a guy like Wicks? And then you look at the D-tackle room, it's like, okay, you've added good pieces, but do you need another one? Do you need another good piece? And I think you're 100% correct. You bring in Calais Campbell, you have good depth right there. A guy who's aging, right, but still producing. That's a guy that you need. And then you look at, okay, now we bring in a different guy. If we need another guy, we bring in another guy for depth, for a depth piece, for developing purposes, everything like that. Like, I think that's where they have to be right now if you're the Packers. So those are the big ones. Those are the big ones we head towards the draft. The other one last big one, offensive line. How comfortable are you right now with the offensive line? Because when you look across it, you have Tom, you have Belton, you have Aaron Banks, always slips my mind. You brought back Sean Ryan, which I think is a great thing at this point here, because otherwise the offensive line would be clearing out fast. And then you have Jordan Morgan, very unproven. I know that he's a left tackle. I know that he played left tackle in college and everything, but still very unproven out there on the outside. And Anthony Belton, he was great in the run game, not so good in the pass game. So you have problems there too. You have to see him develop a little bit more. But I think the big one's at left tackle. So, Amr, how confident are you right now in this offensive line room? Do they really need to put an emphasis there in this draft?
Oh, absolutely. I think that right now, even though you got Sean Ryan, I'm still bringing in one of these guys. I'm bringing in the kid from Florida. I'm looking at Ben Johnson. Is it Ben Logan? Or Logan Jones out of Iowa, or there's another kid out of Georgia Tech who they say is an absolute mauler. Those are the kind of guys I'm looking at to bring in. I'm bringing in competition because, like, I saw Jordan Morgan working out. He looked great. He needs to get his play strength up because that was his knock coming out of college, was his play strength. He has good hands and good feet, but he's just not very strong. So for me, I'm bringing in guys that can be possibly competition at left tackle, competition at center, competition at left guard, as well as competition at right tackle. And the reason why I say right tackle right now is because Zach Tom, he's coming off that really bad, partially torn patella injury. He's not going to be 100% probably till mid-season, if not the end of the season. So you need to have a guy there that can be a swing tackle probably on the left or the right. And I think Kennard can do that. Now, don't get me wrong. But, again, like, for me, there's not enough draft picks to be able to supplement this team the way I want them to. But there are some guys out there who I feel like they should definitely take a shot on because, the biggest issue we had last year was so many injuries on the offensive line, right? But we need to be able to find a way to, like, get some depth pieces back there to where if someone does go down, we're not having such a drop-off in talent when the offense line's out there, right? Because the biggest thing, we've always talked about this, when we had those lines with like Lindsley and like Sitton and Lang and Bakhtari and Balaga, those lines stayed pretty consistent year in, year out. Rarely did those guys miss games. I mean, I remember they even talked about it, like, I think it was Tausch or it was Balaga or maybe it was Lang. He was like, when he saw Sean Ryan come off the field, he goes, your leg or something better be broken. Like, something should be broken if you're coming off the field on the last drive of the game where they need you out there.
Yep.
Right? I feel like we don't have that kind of toughness anymore. Yeah. And I don't know if that's because of the talent or the youth or the type of players they have nowadays. But, yeah, we need some – I don't want to use foul language, but we need some relative we need some people there, some a-holes on that offensive line, right?
Yeah.
And we need like a guy that if he sees Jordan Love get his head smashed down by a safety of the opposing team, he's not going to go out there and fight the guy, but he's going to make sure that guy feels him in the play, right? Didn't have any of that. None of that. There's some guys on this draft that are these guys are kind of guys you'd want with you in a bar fight kind of thing, right?
Right.
Yeah, I just think we need to get back to that. I'm tired of the finesse crap. I need some maulers, and I need some guys that are going to stand up for their players because we don't have that right now.
Yep. No, I agree. I agree 100% right now. Depth is the biggest thing, right, for this team. I think that's where you look across the board and you say depth is the biggest thing, the biggest need out there. They have guys, they have their stars. Now you need that depth to fill in behind them. That's the biggest thing right now. And you can go into the undrafted market and you can find guys who are going to be fine role players or fine depth pieces behind some of these guys. Kennard, like you said, is he going to be the greatest guy in the world? No, but he's going to be serviceable. He's going to do his job out there. I know Ummer always hated Josh Myers, but Ummer, you just wish Josh Myers was still hanging around.
Oh, God. I hate to say it, but like
stability was there when Josh Myers was there. Like, you're asking for toughness. Bro, that guy was playing with toughness.
Okay, he was a tough son of a gun. This I will give you 120%. But I still remember those plays where he would hike the ball and he would get turned around and he's facing the wrong way.
Oh yeah, no, like was the talent always there? No, but man, oh man, I could use.
He had some moments.
Stability.
He had some moments of
stability.
He had some good moments and he had some really bad moments, but he had some good moments. And honestly, he only came out of the game like he had to be again. If he was kind of do that, he was a tough dude. Like I feel like. If he saw Jordan Love get pushed out like that, he would have been the kind of dude to kind of go get at that dude. Easy.
The only time he would come off is if he was on the cart. Like that's the only time I could ever see him come off. What was he playing with? Was it a torn pec? Did he have a torn pec when he was playing?
Yes. That's why that's why I say he's a tough son of a gun because I'm like this dude had literally like that's why like you could tell like when he was playing like the part of his like game that was off because he couldn't even use his arm right.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, like I literally strained my pec doing push-ups today, and I'm just like. Wow, could you imagine if I remember when Tucker Kraft tore his pec. He partially tore his pec, remember? Yep. Same thing with Tom. Him and Tom both partially tore their pecs like a year ago. Man, it took him forever to recover from that. You know what I'm saying? So I can only imagine, man. Like, no, like that was a tough thing for him to get through and play through regardless. I mean, he played through a lot. Dad dying, torn pec. I think he had a hairline fracture once and an ankle or something crazy, man. Like I said, Josh was he might have been very inconsistent, but the man was a tough son of a gun. I do miss that.
No, that's the guys that you need. Like those are the guys that when you're drafting right now, like you just mentioned, Josh Myers, not the greatest player in the world, not the greatest talent in the world, but he was out there. He was always there. He was always going to bring it. And that's what you need. That's the guys that we're talking about that you need to find in this draft. So I guess one last thing before I got to let you go. Your biggest emphasis. We're going to talk about the draft next week, and I know this might change, but we just talked about the wide receiver room. We talked about defensive tackle. We talked about offensive line. Your biggest emphasis, if you're the Packers, what are you jumping on early in this draft? Because let's just say all your best availables are there, right? Let's just say all your best availables are there at that 52. Who are you taking? Like, which position are you taking? You don't have to give me a guy. Just give me your position.
I give you a guy and a position. I'm saying cornerback, and I am doing everything I can to get San Diego State University Chris Johnson D-back.
All right,
there we go. They were saying he was a top 10 pick, and now he's going to be at the bottom of the first, or probably sneak into the second because of all these other talents that are probably coming up. But honestly, I would him in a heartbeat. Like, just he's a Senior Bowl guy. He was a valedictorian. He's very intelligent. He could have left San Diego State, went somewhere else, but he stayed for loyalty. And on top of that, too, he has the it. He has a dog in him that I feel like we need on that defense.
Yeah. No, I like that. That. That's a solid one right there. Cornerback would be a spot. See, corner from if the defensive line, like you were just talking about before, if the front seven can play well, the cornerback becomes less of a need. Like you can survive with the guys that you have in the house.
I agree.
So I would say if my best available guys are there, I'm going offensive line. Like I know everybody complains about Goody going so early with offensive line, but I'm going offensive line. If
the guy's there, if there's a guy that they love and he can be a plug-in starter, do it.
I got to protect Jordan Love's blind side somehow, so I got to bring in tackles galore. Yeah, so that's kind of where I'd be sitting. But Ummer, I got to run here. Let the people know where to find you out there across social media.
Appreciate you, man. Find me at on Twitter at AMAR3455. And yeah, just find me there. And then we're still working out the kinks on Coast to Coast Packers, but we're gonna try to get that back up and running here. So, but right now, just Twitter is the way to go.
Oh, we'll get there eventually, Hummer. We'll get there eventually. Hummer's got to stop taking so many vacations, and then we might.
But that's basically what it comes down to. Yeah.
So thank you, Hummer, on the Go with Trage. I'm your host, Trage, as we're coming back in here on this Saturday. We're wrapping it up for the day here. I want to hit my leftovers, right? Who doesn't love leftovers? We're going to hit our leftovers of the day here. I saw a tweet. This was over by Jack Stern there on Twitter, and he was talking about Trevor McGill last night there. Trevor McGill's fastball last night still sitting around that 97 mile per hour range, and it's been down all season long. I mean, people, I understand. He usually sits comfortably at 100 last season. So now being down to 97, everybody's like, oh, it's just 3 miles per hour. What's the difference, right? There's a big difference between three. There's a big difference in 3 mile per hour right now. And you look at the stats that he had up there: 5 swings, 0 whiffs, 2 balls in play, 2 hard hits, both 101 plus exit velocity on them. And then you look at his curveball last night: 3 swings, 3 whiffs, 2 strikeouts. I mean, you're basically saying that Trevor McGill, if his curveball is off, his fastball is still sitting 97, it's not going to end well for his outing. So Trevor McGill, definitely, like I said earlier on in the show, the inconsistency of some of these guys right now has a lot to do with velocity, has a lot to do with these guys. That has a lot to do with these guys struggling right now. So hopefully the Brewers pitching coaches, the Brewers pitching lab can get these guys going in the right direction there. So that was one of the things that I saw. And then also, I just speaking on Garrett Mitchell from what we kind of talked about earlier, the ceiling is so high for Garrett Mitchell. I mean, honestly, the ceiling is so high for what he could be. The strikeouts are a problem, right? And if he can cut down the swing and miss, if he can cut down those strikeout numbers a little bit, because at one point, I believe he was either strikeout or hit. There was only 4 at one point, and this is not the stat right now, but at one point when I was looking at the stat, it was like 13 strikeouts to 13 hits. And then I believe outside of that, he had like 4 other plate appearances that like resulted in something else. That's a crazy stat to be about. So Garrett Mitchell, if he can find a way to cut off that swing and miss, man, could he be really, really, really good. Really good. It's just going to be, can he cut out that swing and miss, find that consistency at the plate, and stay there? Because right now, he's come up with some clutch hits. He's using every part of the field. He's not afraid to take it down that left, like we saw last night, take it down the left field line. Garrett Mitchell's got a ton of potential. And I can't wait to see if, knock on wood, stay healthy. I can't wait to see a full season from Garrett Mitchell healthy there. So that's about all we have for the day. I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your Saturday and the rest of your weekend. But until we talk again next Wednesday at 5, see ya.